This video is all about importing, and I know this is going to be a popular video, and I'm sorry that I didn't get it done sooner, but um, here it is. Okay, so step number one, go to your vendor's suppliers page and enter a supplier record for the vendor that you want to import from. I don't put these in here by default. I don't want to show preference. I don't want to do anything like that. Plus, you can put um, suppliers in here that don't have um, importing. Williams Shooting Supply, for one, Crow Shooting Supply. They don't offer importing, but you can put a supplier record in here and assign products to them when you manually enter products. So this screen here isn't just about importing, but it's important to importing. Now I've wiped out all of my products on my test store. You can see I have no products down here. So we'll be able to see this happen from scratch. All right. A note about the order here. When a product is chosen on the, from, clicking on a menu or clicking on the item, or when they put it in their cart, it's first going to use the cheapest one. But in the order of a tie, in the event of a tie, say you've got one item from two different suppliers that they charge you the same amount, then to break the tie, it's going to take the order that appears in here. The ones on top are most important, the ones on the bottom are least important. And to reorder your supplier list, just grab a hold of this handle and drag it down. That's all you got to do. Okay. By the way, if these get in your way, they go away on their own, but if you want it to go away quick, just go up here and click on it and it'll go away. And if you want it to stick around, little pro tip, hold your mouse over it and it'll stay there for as long as your mouse is there. When you let it go, it'll go away. But if you immediately want it to go away, just go up and click on it and it'll go away. Okay, so that's the skinny on your suppliers and the order that they're in. You got to have a supplier record for both the data import and the API, and we'll get to that in a minute, but I want to show you some things about the supplier stuff. The only thing required on here is the name, okay? Everything else is just for your information, the exception of the pricing calculations. And I will get to that in a minute. This internal name, this is used internally. You can call it anything you want. Don't make it a real long value because it's used in the drop down boxes on the various forms and settings pages. So just be real short and sweet, to the point. Okay. This one, the official name, that's used on purchase orders and any other generated forms and whatnot where it has to be official. So that's the one that you should have more attention to detail on. This one's just internal use only. You could call Lipsy's Joe Bob's Gun Store and it won't matter as long as this is called Lipsy's over here and you know that Joe Bob's Gun Store is Lipsy's. Okay, so apologize for anyone out there who's named Joe Bob. Down here, this is important. This is your price calculation. Okay, when you're importing from any distributor, supplier, you have to set a price. If you leave these blank, you're going to be selling the products at cost, basically. So you need to put a pricing calculation in here. So, and if you click on this, you'll get some examples and a better description. So basically, you use this as the variable placeholder for price. That's your cost. That's what is coming in the import as what you're going to pay for the product. So if you wanted to just be real simple and just add 10% to the price, you would put this formula in there. Okay. If you want to get a little more, like, so for firearms, remember the price to ship it to your customer you need to include that price in the price of the firearm, because we don't do shipping calculations on firearms. So this is where you put the price of the firearm in there, okay? So if you wanted to add 15%, you want to make a 15% profit and add $25 for shipping and handling to every firearm that you import from this particular distributor, you would use this formula. That adds 15%, and then to that 15% total adds another $25. Okay. If you wanted to combine, if you wanted to sort of, you can get real tricky with this. There's a special function called floor, which basically always rounds down to the nearest dollar. Even if it's $1.95, it'll be $1. Okay. So what this particular type of calculation does, if you want all of your prices to end in .99, 99 cents, whatever, 99, okay? You would take whatever pricing calculation you wanted to do. In this particular example, it's adding 50% to the price. Then it does the floor of that, so it gives you the lowest, the rounded down dollar amount. Adds $25 for shipping and handling, and adds 99 cents so that all the prices end in 99 cents. Profit margins, you can do profit margins. If you don't want to do simple markups, you can do profit margins. This is how you would add a 20% margin to your price. And this kind of combines the margins. This gives you a 20% margin with $25 shipping and handling, and always make sure that it ends in 99 cents. Those are just some examples. You can get as creative as you want. The most important thing here is to make sure that you have the same amount of open parentheses as you do closed parentheses. If you have more open than closed or more closed than open, the import will crash, and you won't know it, because in order for the monitor that I'm going to show you to function, it has to be a running app. This is a particular type of error called a fatal error. It will crash and it will never report it. Now it shows it in the server logs, so if you have problems and your imports seem to never be finishing, let me know. I'll go look in the server logs, but I'll bet you it'll direct me to these formulas. So if you're having trouble with the imports, double, triple, quadruple check that you have the same amount of open parentheses as you do closed parentheses. That's real important. Okay. So that's shipping formulas. You do one for non-firearms and one for firearms. The reason is you want to add shipping to your firearms products. You don't necessarily want or need to this one. You can do whatever you want. It's your store. Okay. This is just for your information only. That way you can, at a glance, remind yourself this is what they do or this is what they charge. Your information only. The only things used here internally is this name and these two price calculations. The reason why this is wrapping is because I got my browser narrowed down so that the video won't be quite so big. There we go. All right. So next is, once you get your suppliers set up and saved, you'll want to go to API settings. All right. These are pre-programmed internally because they all have fixed things they need. They all need a little different things. Most of them simply just need username and password. Some of them need a folder name. Some of them need extra info. So I have to hard code these. I'm not showing preference. They're in alphabetical order, and that, I mean, that's just the way it has to be. So Ellipses is pretty quick. You put in with Ellipses, you use your username and password that you log into the website with. I don't think any other distributor does that. You have to ask. They'll give you specific, unique credentials for data import. But you do have to ask your rep at Ellipses to turn your account on so that it'll work. The reason why you needed to put a supplier record in over here for these is because you got to link this to your supplier record. So if this were, you know, RSR, we'd want to link this to RSR, but this is Lipsy, so we link it to Lipsy's. Save that, and then you'll be good to go. Make double sure that you're not, if you're copying and pasting from an email, one of the biggest things that can happen, and it's hard to spot, is you get a space at the beginning or a space at the end. See, like if there was a space there, I mean, it looks right. Yeah, but if I was to log in right now with this, it would probably fail with an invalid username because there's a space at the end of it. Same with the beginning. You know, that looks right. But if you put your cursor there and you go all the way over, there's a space there. You want to get rid of that. Passwords are the same. You can click the little eyeball and double check your passwords, make sure there's no spaces. After you set that up, go to your data import. This is where all the magic happens, okay? Lipsy's breaks their system out into 4 different processes. So you can't do category mapping with Lipsy's because the actual import here is the category. It's accessories. This is firearms. You know, this is optics. This is NFA. That's as far as you can go with Lipsy's category mapping. So let's do one that you can map. That green is a work in progress. I haven't finished it yet, so disregard that. Let's see, somebody that's not doesn't take a lot of time. Xander's has some good categories. I don't think Bill Hicks takes a long time. But let's do Xander's because I've never done it and we want to do the category maps. So here's the things you need to know here. The various distributors may or may not have differing options that you can set here. But for the most part, these are all the same. If you turn this off, it basically disables the import. The schedule won't run, but you know, you don't have to. This basically just turns it on and off. Okay. Import images. You'll usually want this to on. Some places you may not like their images, and just turn that off. It'll speed up the process, but you'll get no images. So you might want to just always leave that on. Let's see, weightless. You can't ship an item if you don't know how much it costs. Well, you can, but you can't estimate how much it's going to cost to ship it, and you can't give accurate shipping estimates to your customer at checkout time. So you'll probably almost always want to turn that on. If you leave it off, it'll import the products, but you'll have to go in and manually set the weight on each product so that you can actually sell it if you're not doing flat rate shipping. So keep that in mind. If you only want to sell the firearms from this particular distributor, you would turn that on. If you turn that off, everything that they sell will come in. Again, you got a link to your supplier record here. And import into store. If you just want to test the download and the initial import of, it's not really an import. The import's a 2-step process. It downloads the files. It imports the raw data into a temporary holding area where it can then do filtering and other types of manipulations, and then puts that from there into the store. If you turn this off, it will stop after that first initial import into the temporary holding area. This will let you know that your credentials are right, that it's downloading properly, that it's reading the downloaded files and putting them in where they need to go, and then it stops right before it gets ready to put it into your store. I don't even think it will import the images if you turn this off. It may, but I don't think it will. So if you want to sell the stuff, you got to turn that on. If you're using this system for a back end only, you'll still want this turned on, but because the store is what you'll be searching on. I mean, when you go to products over here, you're searching your store. You're not searching, you know, I mean, that's where your products go. So even if you're not using this for a web store and you're just using it for back end only, you need to turn that on if you want to be able to search the products. Okay. The category map, that'll show up once the import is done. All right, so we're going to save that. All right, now I'm going to run this, and then I'm going to pause it and come back because it'll take a few minutes. There's no sense sitting here watching paint dry. But I wanted to show you what it looks like and what to expect. Okay, so we're going to click on play. Now, pricing only. If you know that an import's already ran and it's already downloaded the full inventory file and you just want to refresh your pricing, turn that on. It will be immensely faster than doing a full import. But if you're uncertain whether that's happened or not, just leave that alone because it'll pull pricing in anyway. Skip download. Again, if you know that it's ran, if you come down here and you see a date and time that's real recent and it says finished or whatnot, you know, you don't necessarily need to download because you've already downloaded it very recently. It'll just use those files. They don't get deleted. They stay there until another download is performed. They get overwritten. So in this particular instance, I've never downloaded from Xander's yet, so we don't have the file. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to click Run It. And this is your progress window. This is called the console. And it's going to show you what it's doing. And it may seem like that it's taking a long time, but that's because sometimes it does take a long time. All right. So I'm going to, now it's downloading. And pretty soon it will start processing or importing these files. There, start importing. This is stage one. This is going from the downloaded files into that temporary holding table I was telling you about. This will take a few minutes, so I'm going to pause the video and come back when it's done. Okay, I just wanted to pop in, and it's still doing its initial import into the temporary table, but you can see it's taken over 4 minutes to do that. So just be patient on these imports. And I mean, if it doesn't finish, you know, your first import will be the longest because you got to download images and whatnot. But just be patient. Once it gets past this point, you'll start seeing a progress counter. So you'll know that it's, you know, that it's doing something. If it's gone an hour or 2 hours on an initial import, you might want to contact me and see if it's actually working on an import that's, you know, when I say initial import, I mean your very first one. You've never done it before, because, you know, the next day it'll do another full import, but that's not an initial import, and that shouldn't take as long because all of the images, unless it's a brand new product that they just put in the file, you should already have the images. You shouldn't have to download anything. So it should take not as long after the very first initial import. And even the very first initial one may not take long because somebody else, you know, everyone shares the images for the different distributors. They're in a centralized location, and just links to them are put into your system for you to use. So chances are the images have already been downloaded. You just need to your import just needs to create the link to it. And don't worry, if when someone deletes an image, it doesn't delete the image, it just deletes the link. So your images will still work, and as far as your store is concerned, it has no idea that it's dealing with links. So that's not a big deal. I was downloading images for everybody into their own web folder, and it just seems senseless because everybody's downloading the same images from the same places. Why not put them in a central location so that they only have to be downloaded once? And I'm sure the distributors are grateful for that because that's less load on their servers, and it's less load on my servers, and speeds up the import process. So it's win-win for everyone all around. All right, I'm going to pause this again and come back when it actually starts counting down. Okay, we're back. I had to actually start over. I had to take a phone call, and so I had to start it over. Once it gets done doing all this, importing into the initial stage 1 database, it'll give you some, give you some reports of the settings that you had set on your import settings. And then it will start processing. This is when it's putting products into your store. It's doing the pricing calculations. It's, putting stuff into your store. Now, if you see this, don't worry. It just means that, in this particular case, Xander's, they don't have an image for that particular product and it couldn't download it. It's letting you know that. But I mean, 99% of the time you'll never see that because the imports are running in the background. You'll only know about it when you're sitting here watching it. Keep in mind that this is running on my local development server at my office. This is going to be a lot faster on your live production server. I mean, it's got a solid state hard drive and 2 processors and I think 32 gigs of memory. I mean, it's a pretty heavy duty server. This little puny development server I got works for me for poking around and testing, but it's by no means a production quality server, so this will go a lot faster for you. So we're at a little over 10%. I'm going to pause this again and come back when it's done. Real quick while it's still working, this automatically scrolls. If you scroll this up, it'll just keep going to the end. If for whatever reason you wanted to go back and actually read something, just click this and that will stop it from automatically scrolling, and then you can read some of this stuff, and when you're done, you're ready for it to start scrolling again, just turn that back on and it'll start scrolling again. Alright, we're at a little over 20%. I'll be back. Okay, we're finally finished. When it gets to 100, it'll do some product cleanup, removing products that aren't in their feed anymore. If you've sold that product, or I mean if that product's been included on an order, it can't delete it, but it will disable it. If they're products that have never been sold on your site before, it'll delete them. No sense putting products on your site for stuff that the supplier doesn't carry anymore, right? So, all right, so Xander's is done. Let me get all this debugging stuff out of your way. And so now we can go over here, and if we refresh, we should see some new products, hopefully, if I did everything right. There we go. There's some guns. And, probably, I don't think there's some ammo because I haven't done any mapping. The only thing that gets automatically mapped are firearms. I explained this in the categories video. I can explain it again here. Now that we've done an import, we have categories from Xander's. They have a lot of categories. They're one of the best with categories. One level deep, but they do a pretty good job. What they don't do, and I wish everyone would, if there's any distributors watching this video, please think about doing this. It doesn't help us when you just say ammo. We want to know, is it handgun or fire or rifle or shotgun or what? Because we'd like to be able to map that to our categories. Unfortunately for Xander's, you can't do that. You can map it to ammo if you want. It would be this top level category, and if you have watched the categories video, you'll understand that you can't click on that because that's, you just hover that to get to the bottom, the subcategories. You can get to it if you go here, okay? Search engines will find it, but it really doesn't do much good for your store for people browsing for products. So you're going to have to go into the products list, filter to Xanders, filter to their bucket category for ammo, and manually assign the pistol ammo to your pistol ammo category and whatnot. And I'll cover how to do that more in depth in the products video coming up. But that's, I mean, we're limited to what we're given, and this is what we're given with Xanders. So this is your category map. You can map anything that's in their categories to a category you want to put it in. If you don't want to sell camping supplies, just leave this alone. Bucket categories, as it's explained up here, are disabled by default. The products that are in them will never be shown on your store. Search engines can't find it, and they are completely unavailable. Don't delete a product you don't want to sell. Let me repeat that. Don't delete a product that you don't want to sell. Just leave it in a bucket category or any disabled category. The reason is if you delete it, the next time you run an import, it'll just come right back. You got to leave the products where they are, or leave them in the system. Just put them in a disabled category. If you can disable products individually if you want, or just move them to a category. The bucket category is the perfect place for it. So if you don't want to sell something, just leave it on auto bucket. All right. So let's find something that I mean, I'm not going to run Xanders import again. It takes entirely too long on my development server, but you get the idea. Let's see, bore sights. You might want to, and your categories are going to look completely different than mine. So in this case, you'd come down here. In my particular instance, I think it's probably in shooting. I don't know. I don't know where bore sights is. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. So I would find the category that I want bore sights to go in, and I would choose it. Choke tubes and wrenches, I know that's in, it might be in parts, choke tubes right there. Go all the way down, all right, all the way down, all through here. Map everything that you want mapped, that you want to sell, mapped to one of your categories, all right. Firearms, you cannot map. Firearms go to, I'm trying to find one. Pistol. Firearms, auto-designated. They go to the category that's designated for that particular type of firearm. For more information on that, go and watch the categories video. I go real in depth into category designations. But firearms you cannot map. They go where they need to go. Now that's not to say that after they're imported, you can't go into the product edit page and change a product's category. You can find certain pistols. For example, if you wanted a category that was Sig Sauer pistols, okay, obviously you would want you'd want to move them to that category. Those pistols. Let me back up for a second. You can't put a product in two different categories. So if you create a category called Sig Sauer pistols, you can't have them exist here and in your new category. They maybe in the future I'll figure out a way to put a single product into multiple categories, but that makes everything exponentially harder. So for now, it can't be done. You can move Sig Sauer pistols into a separate category. You would first create your category, and then you would go to catalog, go to products, all right, and go to your filter, and then let's see, manufacturer, somewhere around here should be a manufacturer. There's so much stuff on here. Well, I don't have a manufacturer. Well, that's, yeah, I was like, are you kidding me? Manufacturer, Sig Sauer. And category, it would probably behoove you to do firearms, handguns. Any supplier, or if you just want to pick one, you can do that. Filter it. I don't have any. I don't know why I don't have any. Maybe I misspelled something. Let's not do any category. Huh. I must not have imported any Sig Sauer pistols. This is a little embarrassing. There we go. I don't know why. Maybe they're all one word. I don't know. No. That's interesting. So anyway, you get the point. Figure out how you can find what you're looking for. And this is my development server. It needs coffee from time to time. So there's some SIG. Well, these aren't handguns. These are parts, but you can find them and then select them and recategorize them, as long as you turn on this. Now, if they came in on the import and it knows that it's handguns, this will already be set to yes. But if you move a product out of the designated firearms category, this should already be set to yes. You shouldn't have a problem with it. It will still be considered a firearm. If you manually add a product and it's a gun, make sure you set that to yes. But you can put firearms in any category you want, as long as this is set to yes. Okay. Same with ammo. You can put ammo in any category you want, as long as this is set to yes. Okay. So there's that. So imports. I mean, we can check. See, we've got some products over here. If you want to make sure your pricing formula worked, here's the best way to check that. So you click on a product. All right. Go down here to specifications and find the UPC. Double click, copy that. Go over here to your product search. Go over here to UPC equals. Paste it in there. Filter it. Now here it is. Okay. Here's your cost, and here's the price. Now what did we use for pricing calculations? I don't even remember. Xander's. It was Xander's, right? So Xander's, Firearms. Okay. Price times 1.5. Okay, so here's what we do. You get your calculator out. It's got to run. I haven't used my calculator in a while. So you've got the price, which is $119.95. So 119.95 times 1.5 equals, and remember we're doing floor, so that's 179. So 179 plus 0.99 obviously is 179.99. Is that what it is? That's what it is right there. So that's how you check your pricing formulas and make sure they're working the way you want. If you want to change your pricing formula, that's fine. But once you change it and save it, you need to rerun the import, because that's when they're applied. They're not applied automatically. They're not applied. The only time they're applied is when the import is ran. Okay. So I think I've covered everything with imports. I don't think I've left anything out. So Let me know if you have any more questions, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Hopefully this video explains some things for you. And I think the next video is going to be about shipping. Well, maybe I'll do a products video, and then we'll go into how to go into the order screen and work with orders that have been placed on your site. All right, have a good day, and we will talk to you later.